Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons. And if you're listening to this and you're not a patron yet, contribute to what you listen to if you're familiar with it, is my suggestion, my recommendation. patreon.com, Michael Miller Pilates. And then of course it's basically, this broadcast is for anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. Four things on my list today: losing your grip. What is core new tension? I tried to connect, and number three was avant-garde Pilates, and number four is I tried to connect. So, number one, losing your grip. Losing your grip, right? Being a Pilates instructor is a wonderful thing for me to embrace the sensation of it. So, Core New wants to be recognized. But to make a grip with fingers flat and then make a pull, to have the experience of how strong the grip was, compared to a grip that is curled fingers, and then you make a pull, and there's a difference between the two. In one, you lose your grip, and perhaps in the other, you hold on for longer until maybe ultimately you have to lose your grip. But there's a difference in strength and control. So why am I talking about losing your grip? So, the status quo will always want to limit itself to the status quo being what it is, and why that would be when it comes to survival. Here I'm running from the big dinosaur. And that big dinosaur in Pilates is gravity. Joe's book is titled Return to Life Through Pilates. I said it wrong. Return to Life Through Contrology. Okay? The title of his book, Return to Life Through Contrology, by Joseph H. Pilates and William John Miller, no relation. In MMP points to the fact of core new tension in the body, while pointing to the experience one is aiming for in the pursuit of doing Pilates. That experience being the complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. And in Michael Miller Pilates, that means being, thinking, and observing. And there's nothing bizarre about that. Well, there is some, but there's two ways to look at that. Being your body, thinking your prefrontal cortex, and observing your amygdala hippocampal areas of the brain that feed information into your thinking. So it's not body, mind, and nothing else, and it's not body, mind, and more mind. it's about body, mind, and spirit, and just to think of spirit as something other than thinking, other than mind, and that one is seeking to coordinate those three capacities within the movement, which has a character all its own. So losing your grip. In the MMP world of things, here's common knowledge. And there's all kinds of knowledge that isn't common knowledge, that in some way is private, because not everybody knows about it. To me it's obvious, but to you this might be the first time you've heard this, but it's knowledge, one way or another, private or public, that we rotate at the hips. We have the ability to make rotational dynamic at the hips. And in MMP, the core is the condition of grip at the hips. So it's not about core being a location, it's a condition that defines a location. And the condition is the accomplishment of involution to make what is a grip. Okay, so that takes you to here, which, like it or not, gets you all the way to here, where you have to look at how the body has rotational dynamics, and that they interact with one another, and they create tension between those rotational dynamics. And from that tension between those points, you get a more even distribution of your load, because you engage musculature more uniformly, and dare I say more ideally, at least within the physics that the body is engaging to move. That was a loose runaround on, but losing your grip, oh, I had those other words there though. I thought I did. Deeper, oh, well, okay. So in MMP, actually I don't know, it's just not, in MMP that's true, but you don't have to care anything about Pilates. And the takeaway, if you care nothing about Pilates, or don't even want to hear anything different about Pilates, get clued into MMP, because that's biomechanics, and that matters to everything. Matters to how we move. And so there's three answers to the question, which is my number 2, right? What is core nutension? First, the definition, and that's just 4 words. Oppositional rotation between axes. So there's rotation going this way, and there's rotation going this way, and when they rotate, that's oppositional in their direction, and that's happening between these 2 axes. When that happens between 2 axes, what you get out of that is core nutension. And that tension, by its own expression, is eccentric in nature. It's eccentric. When you're able to grab onto one place and grab onto another place through rotational dynamic, that engagement into the grip presses the axes apart. So the definition, oppositional rotation between axes, when you engage in that, you engage in more uniform usage of your musculature. And from that engagement between the points makes tension, you get a sensation of alignment, of straight between those 2 points. Losing your grip. What is core new tension? The definition, oppositional rotation between axes. So learn that word for word, 4 words is the definition of core new tension. Now I would also urge you to know word for word the description I use. Core new tension is the way the body engages itself to move through space. Word for word. Core new tension is the way the body engages itself to move through space. It engages in oppositional rotation between axes to move. It is what the biology over millions of years is reaching for, the freedom of movement that it seeks in the physics that it finds itself in. So the 3 things about core new tension: know the definition, which is 4 words long; know the description, which is the way the body engages itself to move through space; and then have your explanation of that. Because just like me, all you're doing is pointing to the fact of the matter. And whether or not someone sees it or recognizes it is not up for you. You can't control what someone makes of what you hold light to. So number 3, avant-garde Pilates. Isn't that almost an oxymoron or a contradiction? Talking about different groups and lineages and the effort to maintain the purity of that lineage, making the lineage and the group that is associated with it adopt a closed-minded, maintain the purity of what they already have, than to entertain exposure to something other than what they already know. Human nature. To me, avant-garde means beyond what's here and what's coming. The front edge of fashion, or cars, or cosmetics. It's avant-garde. You know, it's on the front edge. And in that regard, if one only attributes an effort to maintain pure to a lineage, you then put boundaries between you and out there that are probably very worth having. Unless you recognize that part of out there, beyond the lineage that you're seeking to keep pure, is an evolving understanding of what it is for what it is. Regardless of what it is that you keep pure, to the extent that it doesn't resonate with the ideal expressed within the POV of MMP, it was a good sentence, but died in the middle of it. Avant-garde Pilates. So beyond whatever matriarch you would assign to, or patriarch, see, oh, okay, so it's always such a thicket to try to say about what that is, and what's much more important is knowing what you know to be able to say what it is. And MMP is a point of view of Pilates that's just based on 3 things in Joe's book. I take responsibility for and accept all the blame for recognizing and naming and defining core new tension in the body. Here it is, 2020. And this is celebrating my 20th anniversary in publishing this primitive, crude self-publication. But 20 years ago, core new on the cover. So avant-garde Pilates, for whatever else may be out there that's avant-garde that is coming, MMP is coming as one example of interpreting Pilates as what it is, having an essence of its own. And to the extent any of those views illuminate and reinforce the others, the closer we'll all get to the presumption that the theory of MMP is coming from, that Pilates does have an essence of its own. And in MMP, that essence is an experience, and the experience is defined by Joe, complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. The second thing from Joe is that contrology develops the body uniformly. And if you go along with that, then it's time to make this huge leap up to core new tension. And recognizing that the way the body uniformly engages itself is through core new tension. It not only distributes the load, but from the tension, from the engagement comes the experience of alignment, because of the tension between points. You make tension. All right, I gotta go on. I tried to connect, and so by that I mean that for a good part of my life, my effort to connect was only in my writing of a journal that only took on some semblance of sanity when I started adding time and date stamps, but mostly as a means to try to capture what I heard. Chasing an effort to express something in words that expressed anything, right? And yet, no, I wouldn't say it was completely chasing to express your thoughts that aren't written out and that are fleeting, and that the whole creative process. And so I've tried to connect on that level and have done so to an extent, and I got through Pilates to come surface and interact with people in person for a long time. I don't much anymore, but for a long time I got to interact with people traveling and such. And I'm very grateful for those opportunities. And where was I going with that? Oh, I tried to cover connect. I think what matters is in some way doing something for you that gives you an ability to express yourself in a caring, sensitive manner. My caring is about my view of Pilates, the MMP POV, and that is that Pilates has an essence of its own that you can explain. So not tradition, but theory. And in understanding the theory, much of the tradition is more window dressing than anything else. So where I ended this was about surviving, losing your grip, right? And the effort is to develop a grip and then maintain it and deepen it. Just in core new tension, you recognize or you see that the body has interacting grips that enable it to move through space. Underlying biomechanics, prove me wrong. And when people can't do that, they usually ignore you. But does that mean you stop? No, because why? Because you fulfill your duty by sharing your joy, and the fact that it gets recorded at all leaves a deeper imprint in the hologram. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain, connect the dots, evaluate points of view, know how to make an offer. Know how to make an offer, which means know how to stand out from everyone else, because if you set up the expectation that you can that you can, then whether they see the fulfillment of the expectation isn't up to you, it's up to them. Because we know what a gift it is to know about core new tension and have an explanation in our hip pocket of what makes Pilates Pilates, and therefore makes us Pilates teachers. Am I real? How do I know when I'm a Pilates teacher? Well, are you teaching Pilates? See, and evaluate points of view. Add 2 and 2. Direct your thinking. Geist.